Stewart Homestead and Cemetery.
We're at the Stewart Homestead Cemetery. There's a grave thing.
Can you focus in?
Yeah.
This is your family.
Yeah.
Did you get a picture of their shed too?
Yeah, and
This was up then too.
this is their shed.
I wonder where the house was.
I did. And they're our family. And
Yeah.
this is the shed. They had a house, but we don't know where that is. There's some flowers.
Now you can film Normie telling her story.
Yeah.
Go over there in the shade.
Mommy, come here. You have to tell the story.
I'll get that, Mom.
Okay. Mommy here is going to tell us a story.
You sit down.
We're going to go over here and sit down, and she's going to tell us a spooky story. It's not really spooky, but I call it that anyway. You can sit down. I'll stand up and film you telling the story.
Okay. This is the story that my grandmother, Edna Lee Stewart, her married name was Tyson, used to tell us kids when a thunderstorm would come up. My grandmother was told this story by her father, Jim Stewart, about his uncle, Isom Stewart, and his wife, Sarah, which they called Sally, and how they were murdered by their grandson, Josh Browning, and his friend, John Tucker, back in 1917. She would tell us kids this story on the dark, stormy nights when we were sitting there and the lights would go out, you know, during a hurricane, when we just had the hurricane lamps going. Anyway, Granddaddy would take his horse and buggy, which would be my great-granddaddy, from Dade City to the Green Swamp to visit his uncle who raised horses. He had been a bachelor and had married late in life to an older woman who had grown children of her own. One day, her grandson and his friend came to visit and spend the day helping with the farm chores. And when they came in that night for supper, one of the boys leaned the axe that they had been using to chop wood by the front door. After everyone washed up and ate, the boys waited until the couple had gone to sleep. Then they took the axe from beside the door and killed Isom as he lay in his bed. And then they took Sarah to the dining table and tortured her by cutting off her fingers one by one until she told them where the money from the bank. Oh, I lost my spot.
I'm taking him.
Isom had hidden his money because it was common knowledge that he had withdrew his money from the bank because they didn't trust the banks back then. When she told them where the money was, which this story accounts as in $1,500, that's $1,500, They killed her and left her where she lay. They went to the barn to get the money and let all the livestock free, including the horses. They took his dogs and put them in the house with the dead bodies and took off. They did that so that no one could use them to track them. In those days, your dogs ran free, and the stench would have been in their noses, so they couldn't have done it, I guess. A week later, a local man was bringing back a horse he found wandering and knew belonged to Isom. As he approached the house, he could see the buzzards circling and landing on the roof. He could also smell the stench and hear the dogs. He contacted the sheriff and brought the coroner out to the homestead. The sheriff had to kill the dogs because they had gone mad. They had to use a shovel to scrape Sarah up off the floor and laid her on the mattress with Isom. They then buried them outside what was the front door and left a marker. They later discovered who done the murder, and the two were arrested, and a trial was held in Tavares in 1918. They were found guilty and sentenced to 20 years for each person they killed. But at the very end of Grandma's story, she would always say, on that anniversary of their death, you can see the ghostly figure of his prized white stallion running through the woods.
That's cool.
The end.
Well, that's the story of what happened to them. And then there's the grave. Hold on. There's the grave. And there. And then, like I said, there's a shed over here. So the house must have been right there because they put the marker there. That's what they said. Well, I'm going to stop the video here. Everybody, bye.